Central Florida's Chief Meteorologist, Tom Terry, on Channel 9.
All right, welcome back. We are in continuous coverage right now with Hurricane Ian. I'm Martha Sagowski along with my co-anchor, Greg Warmoth. We want to bring you up to speed on what is happening right now. What does Ian mean for Central Florida?
We are in the thick of it right now. That's the way to look at this. Polk County right now, hurricane force winds all the way stretching through Brevard over on the coast. We are seeing massive impacts as well in Volusia County. We're anticipating that St. Augustine and Flagler Beach and those areas also with storm surge. Once there is first light, there could be significant water intrusion there. Again, this has been a massive storm that started down in southwest Florida and is making its way, basically driving right now the I-4 corridor, just coming on up I-4 and heading your way. If you're to the northeast of the storm, you're likely going to get the big impacts tonight. And
let's throw it over to our Chief Meteorologist, Tom Terry. Tom, this storm has given us all different things. It's been hard to track, know exactly where it's going to go, and now we have this high pressure coming in with some cold air adding a different little twist on this.
I'm glad I studied back in the day.
Yes.
Back in Oklahoma, we weren't talking about hurricanes. We were talking about other extratropical systems. But right now, I just got the 10 o'clock position update. It's going to be right down here south of Sebring. Still a Cat 2, 100-mile-per-hour winds. It still kind of has a weird, wonky look to it. The northwestern quadrant is still intact, and that's where the highest winds are going to be because the raindrops allow the winds to really be efficient at coming down to where we are at the ground. But we're really setting up this convergence zone of very heavy rain, and this is why we harp so much about the heavy rain threat with this particular storm. In addition to the wind threat, I think has been a little bit more elevated, which we'll talk about in a minute, than what would be typical for this kind of storm. We still have gusts over 50 miles an hour. We've had gusts up to 65, 74 miles an hour. That was earlier today at New Smyrna, 74. That surprised me. But we have an unusual situation. We were talking occasionally in the lead up to this that we would have kind of this trough of low pressure that would pick this storm up. We weren't sure exactly when it was going to turn, but it has. And then a high pressure area might come in and slow it down. Remember us talking about that? Well, this cold air that's behind this ridge, this is very fall-like, it has sunk all the way down toward Jacksonville, and we have a front that's stalled nearby, which is something we don't normally see with a hurricane because normally fronts and hurricanes aren't nearby, but it's 60 degrees more or less in Jacksonville, and some of that cold air has kind of mixed down to the ground, and we're getting some heavier rainfall and some stronger winds along the coast. That high pressure, and this is low pressure with a tropical system. So the difference in that air pressure has really been kicking in the winds here out of the east along the beach in Daytona, and now they're in high tide. So the waters are running up along Flagler, Volusia County. It's blowing offshore a little bit here in Brevard, which will mitigate some of that, but we're still onshore in Daytona, and that front is also, this is another little quirk, adding to these showers that are really organizing. You see how they just kind of, they're not here in Cocoa, but then all of a sudden, boom, they hit over the St. Johns River and they start forming. That's heavy rain that continues to pour across Seminole and Orange County, and with these rain bands comes the stronger wind squalls. So that's why we told you, get in your safe spot, because it's going to be a busy night tonight. This northern edge is going to be the northern edge of the hurricane coming in across the Florida Turnpike, and it's just going to be this gradual increase in steady wind, and then the squalls added on top of that.
Tom, take a look right now to your right. This camera now is absolutely inundated in Daytona Beach. I hate to interrupt you, but you got to show this. This is crazy.
I mean, George, we've been watching this. That's at least 60. That's got to be 60 plus.
Look at those flags, you guys. Every time we normally go to this shot, it's beautiful with the flags waving in the wind. And
I typically wouldn't interrupt you, Tom,
go ahead.
but this is absolutely the strongest winds we have seen tonight.
Every time we look at this camera, there are fewer and fewer flag remnants left because the winds are just battering the flags here. And we have the hurricane force winds kind of coming back around because remember, Ian is to the southwest of Daytona Beach, about 100 miles. I have to measure it out again because Ian keeps moving, but about 100 miles away, and the winds are wrapping back around, Greg. And then on top of that, we have the strong high pressure, which is what Tom was talking about. That enhances that wind field even more. So we have these 63 miles per hour. Thank you, Tom. It's a brand new storm report that just came in.
And guys, let me compare that. Are we seeing the same thing to the north of that, which would again take you to, you know, Ormond Beach, and you continue on up the coast to St. Augustine and Flagler County. Well, are they seeing this same thing right now?
Go ahead, George.
Yeah, we'll check our radar and we'll see what we're actually measuring with our radar beam in just 1 second. And right now, actually, you know what? We're going to have to take this, use a different site, and we'll go up and we'll look into Flagler County.
Yeah, I just think that's interesting, because I don't want to just say it's only happening in Volusia when all of our coastal counties are seeing what is a pretty interesting twist to this storm, and that's these severe winds and impacts from a hurricane that came ashore way down in southwest Florida this afternoon.
Yes.
We're getting some heavier rain too there, George. I think that squalliness is what's bringing that wind down to the surface there a little more.
And if you're noticing this flashing green line, that is the polygon that encompasses a flood warning on top of everything. And then, Greg, speaking of winds, we still have the continued tornado threat here as well, because some of these gusty squalls are coming in off of the ocean. Well, they are coming in off the ocean, and some of them may be able to start rotating a little bit.
What's that red there behind you?
Okay, so the red and green, it's essentially the same thing but opposite directions, okay? So we're watching the wind speeds, and when you see green, that's essentially measuring or showing raindrops that are blowing toward the radar, and red is the opposite direction, away from the radar. So it's kind of a one-dimensional velocity, and that's why a couplet would represent rotation, and that's one of the things we try to pick out with when we show Doppler velocities like this. Thank you, Tom, for showing this. So 50 to 60 mile per hour winds, New Smyrna Beach, and if you were watching us earlier, we had 74 mile per hour wind gusts in New Smyrna Beach. So at our beaches, we're seeing some of the harshest conditions, even though these spots are farther from Ian Center than, say, us in Orlando, where we're dealing with pretty much tropical storm conditions, still severe. You know, this is still nothing we want to go to bed to. So when you go to bed, and I'll have a county by counties coming up in just a second, I'll kind of show you what to expect, as a lot of people are settling in for the night, and we want to know that we're going to be safe as we go to bed. But we're going to be here all night. We're going to be tracking systems. If we get any tornado warnings, we're going to be letting you know. And if you have the WFTV weather app, that can wake you up. And again, zooming in, the center of Ian is still right here near Sebring, so Highlands County. So Highland, Polk, Osceola, Orange County, so about 2 counties south of Orlando. That's the center of Ian. And is it
the same speed that you were thinking it was going to be, or is it slow down even more with that pressure?
It's hard to measure it. We're kind of in between all the radar sites, but I would say they're probably very equivalent, because again, the farther north we go, the closer the winds are. It's whipping all along the coast. In fact, Flagler County, George, has had that storm surge warning now.
It has, yeah, and roughly 8 miles per hour. And that's, I think, the latest update was still 8 miles per hour. Still a little uncertainty, though, if this thing can jog to the north or if it will move off to the east like this. I anticipate between 8 to 12 hours before it can move offshore. Again, just looking at radar trends like this.
All night.
That's all night through tomorrow morning that we'll have Ian, especially Polk, Osceola, and Brevard County, closest to the center of Ian. And on top of the wind, Greg, Martha, Tom, we're looking at this swath of rain here, 15 to 20 inches. That's been kind of consistent on the north side of Ian. So what we'll likely see at the end of the day is this swath will go across the state, and that's where we'll see a lot of flooding. We'll probably have a flood warning across the entire state by morning because of this. It's
incredible. I mean, Greg and I just said to ourselves, this is incredible to see the mass of this, how it's coast to coast, and everything that could possibly happen with the storm and things you didn't even think of are happening with Ian.
Someone asked me, again, I know that criticism comes louder than praise, and said, well, you're just getting to me personally, getting people ramped up. That's not the case, because what we're reporting here is the facts of what is happening. This isn't something that we think is going to happen. This is literally happening right now at this very moment. This isn't hyperbole. These are facts that we are reporting, and it's something that most of us have never seen before. Yeah. We've all covered hurricanes, but with all of these dynamics and this large swath and these potential for really, really bad tornadoes and flooding, this is a big deal, Tom.
Gusts to 62 in Palm Coast right now. I've got our weather sensor network up. So we're 62 in Palm Coast. So we are just exactly the same as we are over in Daytona, to answer your question.
And that's why those in Flagler County and Volusia County, George, under that curfew from 8 p.m. to 7 a.m.
Of course, and in Flagler County, we have the storm surge warning, so the winds are helping to drive up the waters against the coast, and the coast there has been eroded heavily ever since Matthew, even before that. But the rebuilding of the beach has been, they've been doing it ever since Matthew, and every time it gets eroded away. But if they didn't rebuild the beach, it would be eroded even farther
And now
back.
they're going to have to do it again. That beach for nourishment, they're going to have to keep doing it because, again, that little piece of beach in Flagler County, when you go to Volusia, it's far different than when you go to Flagler because it's so much smaller.
But the beach is there to protect the land behind it, especially when you see the dunes, and that's why important that the dunes are there, and even more important that the dunes have grass growing out of them to kind of keep that sand in place. Rainfall totals here in Brevard County now pushing above 8 inches in some spots, so we have ongoing flooding in some areas. And zooming into Orange County, again, I took these samples a little bit ago, so the actual numbers may be a little higher, but 4, 5, 6 inches of rain. Tom, ongoing flood warnings for some spots, so the creeks and the rivers will be swelling up, and tomorrow morning will be even higher because that swath of rain just spreads overnight through morning.
That's right, yeah. And let me come back just a little bit and reset here. Thank you, George. And one thing that we've noticed here, and you've been talking about this county by county, is the heavy rain. And we are just really in the last couple of hours have we really started cranking up the rain rates where it's coming down 2-3 inches per hour, and it's all coming through. That is a wind report, 61 miles an hour over here at the International Airport, and the heavy rain just continues to roll on through. Here's our hurricane, continues down around Placid Lakes. Let me see if I can pixel query that, because that looks like something I want to look at right there. And gusts of 78. Okay, so that's going to be the hurricane still over here on the southwest side, but I think when that squall rolls through, that's going to probably be over 90 if we get another report out of that site. But that's near Sebring. So this is the wind field. Guys, we're talking about this expansive wind field. Look at this. This is it. This is how big the tropical storm force wind field is. It's as wide as I can reach here, 90-inch TV, and it goes all the way up to the coast right now. And this orange area is the essentially severe thunderstorm wind gusts, or say 60 miles an hour, sustained, all right? This is the hurricane force wind field coming in from Winter Haven through Sebring and from Placid Lakes, where we had that, you saw the wind reading of 78 miles an hour. Now, this hurricane force wind field will dissipate a little bit, and some of these colors, they don't account for friction loss, so it may not be quite this expansive, but we're making up for it with the gustiness to the storms. So look at this. This is 3 a.m. This is why you're definitely going to be hearing this storm all night, why you're probably going to lose power, so you need to be prepared for that from Claremont through Orlando and extending over toward Rockledge. But look at that. We still have some hurricane force wind blobs as we go to bed tonight over Winter Haven. That's 3 a.m. We're here all night for you, okay? And if you do lose power, we have our free news app. You can watch our coverage there, also on our weather app, and of course our news partner 580 WDBO. And there still is right over Kissimmee, St. Cloud. I have a friend Scott down in Kissimmee, and I told him hunker down. It's coming through tonight, and this is noon tomorrow, and this is all based on the track. So this may shift a little south, I would think, George, with the new track, but this is such a big area that Greg and Martha, it doesn't matter.
Right. I have someone texting me now saying, oh, well, that means that this is, because they're watching and they think, oh, does this now mean that it's going to go further south? And I said, no. I mean, we're all in this because it's so massive. So even if it just goes, scooches just a little bit, it's not changing anything. We're all going to feel it.
And George, you wanted to bring something up regarding going to bed tonight and what you'll feel.
Yeah, a lot of people are watching and thinking, okay, it's been a really exhausting day. I really need to go to bed. So this is why I made this graphic for you, because I want you to know what to expect as you're going to bed tonight. Now, if you're in Orange County, we're under a hurricane warning. We have tropical storm conditions right now. That means 50, 60 mile per hour winds. You're hearing your windows rattle. You're probably hearing the trees sway, seeing them sway outside. And as you go to bed into the overnight, this is going to continue. So you'll hear those noises outside your house, the windows rattling, that sort of thing. You may hear some rumbles of thunder. And as we go into the overnight period while you're sleeping, there could be a few more power outages. I would expect that in some neighborhoods. Into Seminole County, kind of the same thing. We're in a hurricane warning. We'll continue with these 40, 50 mile per hour wind gusts. The winds that I've sampled recently aren't quite as high in Seminole County, but it's still pretty much the same thing. Trees these are swaying outside. Some of these are going to break, which means power outages here should also be expected overnight. One of the best things you can do, maybe stay up until 11 o'clock with us. We'll have the new track update. You can charge your phones, your computers, charge everything. And then if you do get a tornado warning or some sort of alert overnight, you would get that on your phone. But we're going to be here all night showing you, telling you what's going on as it develops, because overnight through tomorrow morning, this will continue. Tomorrow morning, Ian is still going to be with us, and it will be tomorrow morning or early afternoon that it moves offshore. So Volusia, Flagler, Brevard County, watching those onshore winds here from Volusia and Flagler County. We have a tornado threat here as well, so we'll continue to watch that. We're watching the flooding risk. This is where we've seen some of the heaviest rain in Brevard County, and hour by hour, if you're in Brevard County, maybe some of these neighborhoods aren't as windy as the rest of Central Florida. Some are, but some have had pockets of quiet weather. This is where we're going to see things pick up overnight. So we're going to see the winds in Brevard County actually start kicking up, and this may happen after bedtime for you, so I just want you to be prepared while you're sleeping so you're not too startled when you wake up. And if you are, we're going to be here. Just turn on your TV and we'll walk you through what's going on. We're going to keep you ahead of Ian, but it's going to be a little more time. Greg, Martha?
Yeah, and so sleeping will be difficult. Maybe you sleep in fits and starts depending on when that happens and when it comes over your house. But again, I think here in Central Florida, it's important to note that for the most part, I don't think that from what I've listened to these two experts talk about, and as I've listened throughout the day, that people have to be fearful that they're going to see their roof peeled back like they've seen with the tin can approach.
We saw that in Naples, the video that's coming out now.
We're not at that strength that's going to do that to most homes. It may be a bit uncomfortable for you as you sleep with the noise and the anxiety or the anticipation.
And how slow it is gonna be. And again, we're looking at Friday when this thing clears out. So be patient. We're going to get you through it. And our team is here. You know, people ask, where do you guys sleep? We're sleeping here. We're not going anywhere else. So
you know, we've done some stories along Lake Jessup in Seminole County as we've had massive hurricanes and storms and the surge there along Lake Monroe, Lake Jessup, the river there that runs right through, you know, with all of the alligators. And we interviewed a man not long ago about he never wanted to move. So what he did was he moved his house by raising it up.
By 10 feet. Here's what we had to say. We just talked to him.
Yeah, we're 10 feet above where we were when Irma came, and Irma flooded us. So I'm hoping that it's not as bad as it's going to bring it up 10 more feet. But yeah, we're in much better shape than we were in Irma. We're in better shape than we were in Charlie. Every time you experience these, you anticipate as much as you can anticipate.
And maybe you've seen his house and didn't know it as we look at the power outages right now across Central Florida. If you are heading on 417, say coming from Volusia, New Smyrna, in towards Red Bug Lake Road, and you'll look to your right and you'll see the house that has been elevated there, and he's done that because such a great piece of property he didn't want to move. And so we'll see how Mr. Hurley fares when we check back in with him tomorrow, Martha.
And right now we do want to talk about all the power outages, Greg, that are happening in several counties across Central Florida right now. We're again constantly updating this because I want to let our viewer know, obviously this is a fluid situation and numbers are going to go up, but these are just coming into our newsroom as we track the power outages. Right now, OUC reporting over 14,000 customers without power. Duke, close to 64,000 customers without power. Florida Power Light, almost at 21,000, and KUA, just under 1,000 customers without power.
We've got some tough customers working for us here at Channel 9, but everybody needs a break, and we're now doing the Tag You're It. And so Chantal Navarro is now joining us. She is with our photographer who has been around forever, Carl Hargrove, and she joins us now from, I believe my story count tells me you're in Lake County. Is that right, Chantal?
Yeah, that's right. We're in Lake County. We're at the Lakeside Inn. This hotel has been around for more than 100 years, since 1883. So, you know, it's seen its fair share of hurricanes and strong storms. It got wrecked during Irma, and it is, you know, going to see what it faces once again. We just heard some thunder just about 30 seconds ago. We've been seeing some lightning, but so far conditions aren't too bad here. It's just mostly drizzling. The winds are just making the trees shake just a little bit, but we have been seeing our fair share of evacuees here. here. The hotel says about 15% of people staying here were trying to get away from Ian in southwest Florida. We spoke to someone who came here from Tampa. He says he was trying to get away from Ian, being in Zone A. He ended up way more in its path.
The power went out in Tampa Bay, and that's kind of what brought me away from staying put where I was, because I wanted to move more inward where maybe I have a chance of keeping the power on, because I work remotely, so I kind of need the power on.
We also checked in with EMA tonight. They said that 836 people are sheltered across their 14 locations here in Lake County. But that is it for now. We'll keep you guys updated as things develop here live in Mount Dora. Chantal Navarro, Channel 9, Eyewitness News.
All right, Chantal, some breaking news right now with Severe Weather Center 9.
We have a tornado warning, and we need to get right on over to our team of meteorologists, Tom Terry. We're talking about Volusia County.
That's right, yeah. And this is going to be mixed in with a whole bunch of rain. So it's just kind of a little bit of extra boost to the wind coming onshore near the Ormond Beach area. So this is the tornado warning area. Let me see if I can make something out here with the wind speeds inside the storm. Looking at this for the first time now. Okay, so right in through here, we had a little burst come through just north of Ormond Beach. So we've had a little bit of extra spin on the northeast side. We're in that northeast quadrant, and that's kind of what has helped to initiate a little bit of extra spin. I think that is, I'm going to stop this. It's moving too fast. But yeah, we get a warning. Yep, see that right there? Right there. So that was it as it was off the coast. That would almost kind of be like a tornadic waterspout almost, but this is something we did a lot more during Irma, I will say, than we did with this. Irma had far more tornadoes than this one, but you can see it. Watch it. I'll back it up a little bit there. You can kind of see it coming together. That's off in the ocean. Off in the ocean, off in the ocean. It looks like it fills in a little bit, but there's still a contrast between the red and the darker color there. So that is likely going to be coming on shore north of Ormond Beach. So George, if you can go to 3 for me, do a little track there. Let's take it from right where that white line is pointing to it, north of the A1A emblem, and we'll track that. That's probably moving at about 40 miles.
45,
let's make it 50. Yep. Now let's go 50 because the things are moving fast. So that's going to be moving generally to the west at 50 miles an hour.
That's a good clip, huh?
And this is in the middle of a big squall, okay? So this is not like in isolation where all of a sudden you're just going to get wham. This is going to be in addition to the wind that you're already getting. Sustained winds are over 40, so this will probably be a gust over 60 to 70, give or take. But so from Ormond Beach, the National Gardens, the Deanville area, so this is going to rapidly move in, and I think it's probably going to get just jammed up in the overall wind field, okay? So I don't think it's going to be a long track. I'm still looking offshore. Looks like we have another little suspect right over here. As we kind of back it up there. But you can see it, George, it looks like it's starting to fill a little bit, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. These are going to be brief little rotations, and kind of these tropical tornadoes can spin up very quickly. They can actually dissipate very quickly, and they're embedded in this. Tom, these storms themselves are moving about 60 miles per hour. Yeah. The tornado tracking at 45 miles per hour, that in itself is a very fast-moving storm that would be possibly generating either a funnel cloud or a tornado.
Yeah, and so this, so it's just coming on shore. This is going to move all the way through north of Ormond Beach, and it'll be over here across southern sections of Palm Coast, which, by the way, we're getting winds up to 60 up here. We're generally around 62 gusting through here, and we did have a little bit of spin, but it looks like it's starting to flatten out a little bit right now, not quite as spinny.
There is some video, too, that has appeared on social media, verified out of the Ponce Inlet area from earlier today of a water spout. So that could also be something that has spun off. One of the captains that pilots one of those boats out there, doing fishing, spotted that today.
Yeah, and that was a little bit of a different situation earlier today. What was that, George?
Yeah, I'm checking right now. We have more updates coming in.
We hear everything go off. We wonder what it is.
Offshore circulations being monitored by the National Weather Service. They're the ones that issue the tornado warnings. They're moving toward the coast. Of course, that's what we've been analyzing. So essentially, we're going to be watching more of these. If you put the loop of the radar into motion here, and you can do that if you call Weather 5 up. I'll actually do that. And again, each one of these, Tom, we're going to watch each one of these. Each one of these will have the potential to rotate or possibly produce a funnel or tornado. So we'll have to watch each one of these. And there's just more and more. This, we like to compare hurricanes to past hurricanes. This is I don't know if this will feel like Irma when we were getting hurled with tornado warnings, but this is the offshore storms that are moving very quickly. They can spin up very quickly, and so we'll have to watch the tornado threat. For now, New Smyrna Beach all the way up to Palm Coast, but we'll keep an eye farther south as well. Again, Tom, just a weak little rotational couplet.
Little blip.
Looks like it may be flaring out there.
And this is going to be our next candidate right there. We have the winds going in the right direction. So basically, we have radars, our live radar, Jacksonville, Melbourne. You always try to pick the one that's in the right position because the radar can only see coming directly toward and away from you. Okay, that's why, you know, when
one-dimensional.
Yeah, it's a very one-dimensional. So we have to kind of get the one that gets the wind going in the right way. So everything's kind of going crooked. But this one right here, we'll have to keep an eye on as it moves toward Ormond Beach. Probably an offshore system now.
Okay, so do us a favor. If you live in Ormond Beach, if you live in Holly Hill, Ormond by the Sea, all the way up to Flagler County, Daytona Beach, just stay with us because we want to make sure you know that on top of everything else, on top of the strong winds coming in, there could be a few thunderstorm cells embedded in the flow that are rotating. So we're watching that threat for tornadoes. And what that essentially means is, I know it's windy already, but this could actually briefly kick up those winds a little more. So you'd have a higher likelihood of, on top of everything else, maybe you have some branches that are breaking at this point. This could actually cause a little bit, one level higher of damage in some of these cells up here in that far little part of Volusia County.
We can see the little breeding ground, for lack of a better term, for these little rascals over here. The winds are spinning more rapidly in the northeast side of the storm, and this is something we didn't see a lot earlier today because I think we had this drier air that kind of shut them off. But now we've got them spinning up here. So this will be just kind of a squall with winds of about 60 to 65, which is what we've been denoting, and a little bit of an extra push as it comes on through. There's nothing out here that looks overly huge, though, which is good. Not like it was down in southwest Florida earlier today, Greg.
We showed the video, yeah.
Yeah, and earlier today, too, you're asking about down around Ponce Inlet, or where was it? I think it was in Brevard County.
There was a water spout in Volusia County off the coast of, by Ponce Inlet.
Yeah, we were up. We were looking at that, and we were also looking at them over here because we did have a tornado spotted west of Melbourne. That was earlier today, but that storm was all by itself. So this is just mixed into the whole group, but we are seeing some of these storms that are rotating, so we're definitely going to keep an eye on that. But here's the hurricane, George, and it is a Cat 2 right now, and it's about 80 miles to the south of Orlando.
And the thing is, yeah, on the whole northern half of this is going to be a rainmaker. And the rains are going to continue, and I know the lakes are going up. I know that some of the creeks and rivers, those levels are going up, but more rain is coming. So we're going to watch all of that not only fall and accumulate, but the runoff will go into some of those already full water bodies. So we're watching that flood risk. And just like we've been saying, the flood risk was going to increase tonight and through the day tomorrow. We need Ian to move offshore and take the rain with it, but it's going to take time overnight through tomorrow morning.
And the not so good news here, not to be the Debbie Downer, as soon as this thing moves off the coast, we're going to continue tomorrow. The storyline will go from onshore and offshore to offshore, and we're just going to continue to keep pounding our northern beaches here. That's why I think the rain rates here, the extra rainfall is going to be significant.
I think that whole rain swath will cut right across the state. But for now, the tornado warning on top of everything else for far northern Volusia County. Now, at this point, it doesn't include Daytona Beach. And again, it's just a quickly moving cell that had a history of brief rotation. Just this little sliver of Volusia County. There's I-95 there, all the way up to Flagler County, that tornado warning. It's until 10:45. Yeah, 10:45. So the next 15 minutes. I wonder if we'll get a cancellation early, but just watching just more pockets of rain here that have the potential to briefly spin up.
Yeah, that looks just kind of squally to me, which is kind of what they have right now. That looks pretty unidirectional. Everything's kind of rolling in one way. So we're just watching this. It's going to be a long night. We're going to see, I think, the northern beach area, and I'm surprised, too, because it's so chilly. The air is relatively cool up here.
Especially to the north, yeah.
But we just have just enough spin energy to get, again, some of these little spouts coming through.
And farther offshore, when we were looking, there was a few cells that had lightning clusters, and I think if we go back, we can see they're farther offshore. That's also traditionally an indication that a thunderstorm may have rotation. And so some of these farther offshore are showing that. So we'll monitor those as well. At this point, 1 tornado warning. You know what, Tom? We haven't had a tornado warning in a while. So this afternoon. So right now, you know, maybe we'll get a couple more along the coast. If you live along the coast, we want you to stay up with us just to kind of watch things. We'll keep you ahead of any tornado warnings that develop. Otherwise, the other advisory that we have as far as short-term advisory is this big flood warning here, which includes all of Orlando, all of Kissimmee, Oviedo, Deltona, Daytona Beach, Titusville, Port St. John, just because of all the rain, and it just keeps coming. Yeah, and this hurricane is going to continue to move. I think it's going to be, when we get this new track here, they're going to shift it again a little bit, trying to follow our model, which has kind of been on top of this. But it's going to shift all this heavy rain back toward the coast. We're going to continue with this scattered rotational threat, isolated tornado. But you see how widespread the rain is now? The rain is where the squalliness is, so that's why the rain rates are going up, the flooding threat continues, and of course the power outage problem will be exacerbated. Yeah, which is another reason why maybe, you know, plug in your phone before you go to bed. Make sure you go to bed with a nice full charge on your phone, your laptops. Remember, your laptops can charge your phone if you get power outages. Any of those portable charging devices, a good idea to charge those up before you go to bed. And just as Tom was saying, as you get south of Kissimmee and Point Siena, we just huge swath of heavy rain on the north side of Hurricane Ian's center at this point. The eye is kind of filling in, and we're seeing a big rainmaker here. Parts of Polk and then now into Osceola County, we're seeing those hurricane conditions, again, closer to the center of the storm. And again, this will have to move across either Osceola County or to the south of it, and then Brevard County or to the south of that before moving offshore tomorrow morning. Is taking time to do that. This is a slower hurricane than, say, Irma was or than Matthew was. Yeah, I'm taking a look at the Weather Service chat room we have here, and we can talk right to the Weather Service. And other people are asking, are they going to cancel this warning early? They probably should. But either way, all these little cells here, we're going to very closely. And can we show the Daytona Beach cam? We can't show this camera enough, right? Yeah. This is what it looks like over in Daytona Beach, where it's just been hammering through the flags. There's just not much left of them there. Look at that. Anymore. And that is a steady 60+ mile/hour wind. That's essentially a severe thunderstorm that doesn't quit. Martha, right? We were talking about this. What's it going to feel like? It's going to feel like a severe thunderstorm that lasts for 12 hours or 14 hours. 12 to 14 hours. And, you know, people keep messaging us saying, oh, okay, is that it? No, this isn't it. We are just getting going. But again, these are just amazing pictures out of Daytona Beach right now with those flags. We always use this shot during our newscasts prior to the storm. And beautiful shot of Daytona Beach, people strolling down the walkway there, and those flags that are blowing in the breeze. But now, as you can see, what Ian has done, it ripped, torn off the flags that line that area right there. And we've seen our reporters doing live shots, and you know, this rain coming in is like sideways, Greg. And Tom said, you know, those weather things that are vertical, you know, we may not get an accurate rain, the totality of rain, because the water is coming in at an angle. Yeah, horizontal rain is tough to gauge, but the wind here is what is just so alarming. Now, these are the 3 cameras that we've chosen to show you right now. There is the one I-4 and the 429. That is the top left part of your screen. In the middle is 429 at the Ocoee-Apopka Road exit right there along I-4. And the beautiful thing about those 2 cameras, there's no cars on those roads, right, which is what's supposed to be the case. And then the one there at the bottom left is the one that we've really been in awe of throughout our coverage. And you even see the 429 cameras, Martha, that is moving. It is bouncing up and down. And I want to take folks over to Brevard County now. Tom, are we clear to do that while you guys were good out of this? Yeah. They canceled the warning, tornado warning, like we suspected they would. Okay, good. So we want to go over to Brevard because our Ashley Edlin is at the Port St. John boat ramp in Cocoa.
Well, Martha, the wind here is definitely picking up. We've been here for about, I'd say, 15 to 20 minutes, and there's been a significant change. I think I heard George say just a few minutes ago that the wind was expected to pick up here in Brevard County, and that is certainly the case. Now, I want you to take a look at the boat ramp here behind me because you can see just how far up the water is, and back you can't see the boat ramp anymore because it is completely covered with water. And I've seen this water coming up a little bit closer to us, edging closer again within the past 15 to 20 minutes. Believe it or not, we've actually seen some people out here closer to the boat ramp, just kind of taking pictures and waiting around in the water here. Probably not the best idea. But things in Brevard County today have been pretty calm up until this point. We're starting to get more rain now. The wind is feeling like it's a little bit stronger out here. So you can see again that boat ramp just covered with water. Again, a lot of people out here taking pictures. Of course, we're going to keep you updated on these conditions here in Cocoa, in Brevard County in general. But guys, back to you.
Ash, we appreciate your live report. Stay safe there with your crew.
Yeah, and I just got an email from another one of our wonderful viewers who asked us about Sumter County, Lake Panasoffkee area. And the one thing, as I just asked Tom, and again, this is interactive TV nowadays because it's so easy to get in touch with us, which, you know, I don't discourage at all. Tom said that they're on the weaker side of the storm. Certainly they're going to know there's a tropical system out there, but right now the Lake Panasoffkee area and Sumter County they're not really right in the eye of what is happening in terms of the punch of Hurricane Ian. Now let's go to Osceola County. This is an area that will feel significant impacts, and rain will not be a good thing because that area has been really hit hard this summer and really can't take much more because it's so saturated.
And at some point, there is nowhere for it to go. We want to check in with Channel 9's Nick Papantonis. He has moved to St. Cloud. What do you have, Nick?
So I think I'm going to echo Ashley and some of the others in what they've been saying. As we've been watching this radar, it's matching up with what we're feeling, which is that we've hit kind of another level of this storm just in the last 30 minutes since we were on the air here. You can see behind me, the wind is essentially sideways at this point, and it's not just because we're close to we're on the St. Cloud Marina, we're close to the lake. We saw that earlier. The wind has been whipping here, but even in the interior part of St. Cloud, in the middle, the area in between St. Cloud and Kissimmee, the rain has been sideways. The wind has been harder. We've actually started to see some trees get uprooted now. Some viewers have been helpful in pointing out where that's been happening to me in this area, but then we've also just seen some in passing that we haven't been aware of. So they're starting to topple over here. We also saw here in St. Cloud as we were driving in very, very bright blue lights lighting up the sky for a few moments. Normally that means some sort of electrical issue. At this point in time, it looks like St. Cloud has power, not just here in the marina, but the houses that we can kind of see off behind the camera. But we are going to be watching that. A lot of really large trees here, again, mixed with the high wind, and then just all of the water that we've been getting all afternoon and now evening. Again, just making for a combination that you don't normally want to have. This area that we're standing in right now is also prone to what we call river flooding, or in this case it would be lake flooding with East Lake Toho here. So we're going to be watching that as well, but the flash flooding concerns starting to pick up. We've been watching ditches in Kissimmee. Those still, as far as we can tell, haven't overtopped their banks. We have, as we've been driving through St. Cloud, those seeing roads filling up with water. So that is something new, not just puddles along the side of the roads, but the entire stretch of the road itself. I think it was Connecticut, if you're in St. Cloud and you're familiar with that area. Connecticut was the road that we saw the most covered so far. So we're at the point now where the ground is so saturated and there's been so much water coming in that now we're starting to see the landscape not being able to keep up. Again, that is going to trickle over into those rivers, ditches, streams, creeks. Shingle Creek in Kissimmee, a big concern for us starting tomorrow at daylight and then moving forward into Friday as well. But this is going to be those early stages here. Again, just giving you another look at the rain and the wind in that light that's behind me here. It is sideways. It is pulling trees over now here in Osceola County and is expected to continue getting worse and going downhill as what we would call the eye if it was a hurricane, and whatever it is now moves in and over this area directly. Live in St. Cloud, Nick Papantonis, Channel 9 Eyewitness News.
Kind of interesting when you think about Shingle Creek there in Osceola County that it actually is connected to the Everglades, the Florida Everglades. It's the northernmost point, and again, that water's got to go somewhere, and many times it goes into those communities in Osceola County, and that flooding has been something they've spent there was $500 million in damage in that area during Irma. And so, you know, they've been there, done that, and they don't want to do that again.
And here at Channel 9, it's all hands on deck. So we have have actually sent our Alex Walker, our sports guy. He's now on the news side of things. He's live in Orlando near the Orlando International Airport with the conditions out there. Alex, what do you have?
Hey guys, how are you? Yes, it's all hands on deck for hurricane coverage, so it doesn't matter. No sports this week. It's all about news and helping out the team. But we've been down here just north of the Orlando International Airport since about 4 o'clock. But over the last 2.5 hours, things have significantly worsened. You can kind of see the wind is just whipping here just off the 528, especially on the roads. A lot of standing water. We were driving around a little earlier. If you don't need to be on the roads right now, stay off the roads because there's a lot of standing water. We haven't seen a number of cars on this road, but the cars that are on right now struggling a little bit to get through. Just a couple of tree limbs down here and there in terms of debris, nothing more than that. But one thing we have seen, and when we were sitting in the hotel before our shift started tonight, lightning, which I know you don't see a whole lot of lightning in hurricanes. A bunch of lightning flashes that came all at once about 8 o'clock, 8:30 here just north of the Orlando Airport. But yeah, the wind, the rain, it's starting to pick up and it's coming in bands. 1 minute it's calm, the next minute it's not. And we'll keep you updated on the conditions here just north of the airport tonight and throughout the morning. But for now, back to you guys. Alex Walker, Channel 9 Eyewitness News.
And Alex, I know that this is not your first storm. I know you're new to us here in Central Florida. You have covered those along the Carolina coast. As you're out there tonight and driving around and getting to your location with your photographer, Shane Whitehead, I'm curious as to how this compares to other storms that you have been in, because so many people have just moved to Central Florida in the last week. We talk about 1,000 new net in Orange County alone each week. What's it been like for you in terms of...
Yeah, Greg, and Shane Whitehead said that his gift to me for moving to Florida was a hurricane. So 2 weeks in, you mentioned how many people move to the Central Florida area every single week, myself included. Been here about 3 weeks now. Covered Hurricane Michael back in 2016 that battered the Atlantic coastline when I was in North Carolina, and very similar in terms of the driving rain and the wind as you're seeing right now. I mean, it's really picking up here just north of the airport. But yeah, similar to the driving winds, just stinging rain. It feels like someone's throwing little pellets at you. But yeah, very similar to the Hurricane Michael and back in 2016, just along that Atlantic coastline, the other side up in North Carolina. But yeah, very similar. But yes, we'll keep you updated here on the conditions, Greg. Not my first hurricane, but my first Florida hurricane. And so we'll do our best to keep you updated the best we can throughout the evening. Back to you.
Hurricane is throwing us off for a loop right now, but just to give our viewers some perspective, and Alex kind of touched upon it, and you and I both covered our fair share of storms. We've been doing this, we have 70 years between us, the news. When that rain hits your eye, he's exactly right. It comes in from the side, and it feels like sand is just hitting you in the face. And with these storms, it doesn't come down like that. Many times it comes like that, and it is stinging, especially for our reporters who are out on the ocean, beach side. You got the sand whipping up as well, and it's just uncomfortable to be out there in the field doing that.
And out by the airport, one more note about Alex Walker and his report and his location. Out near the airport, there's not as many wind blocks. It's flat out there. And when Hurricane Charlie came up the I-4 corridor, again, we keep going back to that storm, the similar track, dissimilar in terms of the size and the speed of the storm, but the Hurricane Charlie winds hit a gust at the airport of 106 miles per hour in 2004. We're not dealing with a Charlie-like storm. It's just the intensity and the length in terms of how long we'll be under this umbrella of Hurricane Ian. All right, we've got a lot of things happening here and a lot of things happening at your home that maybe we're not addressing, and we want to apologize for that. We're trying to do the best we can, but maybe this can fill in those gaps. This is the Hurricane Helpline. This is brought to you by 9 Family Connection and volunteers that are armed with lots of answers. The helpline, Martha, is now up and running.
And you need any answers right now? You got some questions? Please call it 1-800-832-WFTV. Again, 1-800-832-9388. Again, and with the beauty of social media, if you want to email Greg and I, we're here. We look at our emails all the time.
I just received a video from Hoffner. I'm going to get this on the air soon, and it was somebody driving, and they show basically like a tin can coming off one of those mobile homes. So again, these damage reports, these damage videos, WFTV.com/share. Do it from the safety of your home or a structure. And again, we'll get those on the air. And again, that website, WFTV.com/share. Hundreds of videos have been uploaded by our viewers, and people can look at those as well on our website.
And we want to go back out now to our Jeff Coolidge, who's been hunkered down at Lake Monroe in Sanford. And Jeff, you know, we talked to Alex Walker a short time ago about that rain stinging your eyes. And I know we've gone to you and Kenny Gibson, your photographer. You guys have been a team in Seminole County for years. How is the situation out there for you? And we're frozen, I think, because of what's happening. You know, again, it's all technology and the bad weather. We're going to try to get reestablished. And
it's remarkable if you think about it, how the technology is held up, especially our little camera that could in Volusia County along the coast, just taking a beating there along the coastline. Bottom left there, that's Daytona Beach. In the middle, I-4 at the 429. And at the very tippity top there, there's the 429 as well. And you see those cameras shaking a little bit. Those two are not our cameras. This one here at the bottom is been fortified by our engineering team. And again, it's a window into the world, typically the world of the most famous beach. And tonight, the most famous beach has become the most famous camera shot here in Central Florida because of the intensity as that storm wallops the Volusia County coast. Think about that. It starts all the way down here near Naples, comes all the way across Florida and swings around and says, boom, basically to the folks in Volusia, Ormond Beach, Flagler Beach, St. Augustine, Brevard feeling some of that as well. All along that coast getting hit hard by a storm that was way down here when you look at the geography of Florida.
And this is a storm that has, you know, baffled, and our team of meteorologists, they're surprised at the intensity. It's so massive and all the little facets that are now happening. We want to go over to our team right now. Tom Terry, you're over there. You scratching your head? Like, what's next? What
I'll
else
respectively say not baffled, but challenged.
Challenge. There you go.
There's nothing surprises me anymore. This has surprised me a little bit, just the craziness that's going on. So as you go to bed tonight, the worst weather is moving in. We are going to be watching this for you all during the late night hours. The strongest winds are going to be south Polk, Osceola, then Brevard, but we're also getting pretty much a widespread, very strong tropical storm to near hurricane force wind field across Orange County, parts of Seminole County. The farther northwest we go, past in the 75 corridor, it's going to be mainly tropical storm, but the wind field is bigger than I can fit on this monitor. It's big.
And Tom, the viewers in Osceola County are telling me around the Kenansville area right now that Ian is about on top of them. They feel it.
And it's not, and it's south of there, and that's what we're talking about. It feels like it's really starting to pick up, and that's mainly because, and I'll show you in a minute, the heavier rainfall is there, and that is kind of driving that wind down toward the ground very efficiently. That's why we're getting the weather that we're getting. Let me advance this graphic. I'm gonna have to get a hammer out and bang on this thing, but never mind. It's been a long day. Wind gusts right now, 56. It was 67. We had 74 earlier today over in New Smyrna, 51 Orlando, and the hurricane is still about 85 miles to our south. So that means as the storm gains latitude, it will weaken somewhat as well. We're still waiting on the 11 o'clock advisory. It'll probably go down to about 90 or 95 miles an hour, but still aiming point is still, I think, going to be over here in Brevard County. But as you can trace this heavy rain, it's just going to go all the way through the area. And where we have the heavy rain, we have the heavy wind, and the wind has been exacerbated. And this has been part of the challenging aspect of all of this. We knew we had a big ridge of high pressure to the north, but we had a front sneak a little farther south and got in the mix of this thing, and we've taken this colder air in the atmosphere and slung it down along with the winds of the rain. So it's kind of like we have almost like mixing a severe thunderstorm with a hurricane. Everything's rumbling around together. So we're getting some lightning, which we don't often see, and a tropical cyclone for various reasons. We're also getting heavy rain squalls that are setting up here, and we're getting absolutely hammered along the coast, and will be throughout the day tomorrow as well. So you can see the heavy rainfall. Here's our Cat 2. We've already had hurricane wind readings here just south of Polk County.
So Cat 2 right now, Tom.
Still Cat 2. Do we have the advisory yet, George?
Not yet.
Not yet. Not yet. Cat 2 as of now may still be a Cat 2. We're going to know here in just a minute.
That's impressive.
Yeah, it's still very impressive. We need to get upwards of about, I think, 96 miles an hour for on the top end of Cat 1, Cat 2. But this is the core right here. This is shooting out of the radar out of Melbourne. And this is where we've been seeing these hurricane force wind gusts coming through our southern periphery. So this whole wind field is going to keep rolling to the north.
Francis was Cat 2, just as a comparison.
Yeah, Francis was a 105-mile-an-hour hurricane when it made landfall, but was weaker as it moved, and it was way to the south. We didn't have this cold air that's mixing in, which is creating these really heavy rain bands, Greg and Martha, that are rolling through across Orange and Brevard County. International Airport, wind gust 61. It'll probably peak over hurricane force here overnight tonight. Port St. John, Rockledge. Now, the rain is kind of backing up a little bit here, so we're going to bring more heavy rain through. I checked some of our rain gauges around the area. We're in between 8 and around 10 inches of rain, but again, it's all night of additional rainfall. And here is this core. Now, Irma, we were talking about this comparison, guys. Irma was kind of like a little flat piece right here. That was all that's left, and it kind of whoosh and kind of went
2017 Cat 3.
Yeah, and this one is going to be, I think, a much larger rain and wind field as it scoots all the way through and eventually offshore by tomorrow morning. So we have a very long night ahead. This is the wind field. Let me know when that advisory comes in. Okay, this is the hurricane force wind field that will continue to slide through Osceola, Polk County. That's why hurricane warnings are in effect. This area is severe thunderstorm wind gusts over 60 up to 70, just below hurricane strength, and that encompasses a lot of the area. That's why we have everyone involved, unfortunately, in this big wind event, and this will be what's left of a decaying hurricane wind field, but we're still getting the gusts that will continue. And this is tomorrow in the afternoon as the rain shifts offshore. Then we start pulling the winds back onshore here along our northern beaches, and that will exacerbate the flood threat. Just an hour by hour, just to show you, this is in Kissimmee, St. Cloud, 66, 76 at 6 a.m. So it's going to get worse. You mentioned it. It feels like it's there. It's going to get a little bit worse overnight tonight. And then the winds switch directions, and that may exacerbate some flooding issues if you're on one side of the lake or the other, because the water's blowing the opposite direction. In Titusville, 2 a.m. all the way through the early morning. Watch the wind speeds pick up, 55, 62, 64, 65. So it's going to increase as the hurricane approaches Brevard County. And one more stop here, Metro Orlando. Gust, these are wind gusts, by the way, 62, which matches what we've already seen at the airport. So our data is accurate here, 65, 67, and then the winds start to turn direction at noon tomorrow at 62. And that's our forecast model, but that's going to be a long stretch of weather ahead.
It is, and we're also waiting. It could come in at any moment, that 11 o'clock.
Yep. I'll have that for you as soon as I get it.
But you're not thinking it's going to be anything
They may
substantial?
tweak it a little bit south toward Brevard County, which is kind of what we've been saying all along. I almost want to reach in the computer and just like start turning some dials here.
Yeah. Hey, Tom, I know this is real super specific, and again, this is interactive. This is much different than other hurricanes because the viewers can easily reach out to us, and someone just sent me this note and some video, which I'm verifying, and I want to ask you live on the air, let's let this play out. Old Goldenrod Road near Hoffner, about 50 minutes ago or so, he just sent me some video of a mobile home with basically the roof being torn off of it. I don't know in terms of the wind gust at that point, but I do know that, you know, it doesn't take much more than Cat 1, according to the Saffir-Simpson chart, to do some similar damage. Certainly a Cat 2 could do that. Do you think that's possible, that someone could lose a roof?
Mobile?
It looks like a mobile home, this video.
Yeah, they're not going to be built to the same strength as a normal home, so it will not take a Cat 1 hurricane necessary to start peeling off the roof of that.
Once it starts, off it goes.
And you know, one thing, when I stepped out the back and just kind of surveying Mother Nature doing its thing, the wind is, you know, 30, 40, it's a little gusty, and all of a sudden you get this probably 20-mile-an-hour gust on top of that, so it's like 60. And that could certainly be enough to start taking
the
off some of these
physics
trees.
of that would do it. It's
Exactly.
the timing. It's
Exactly.
like you go
And
back into physics
I've already
class.
lost a screen enclosure around our
Apopka.
pool. We've already lost panels, and the wind's gusting over 50. So when they get over 60, when they get over 70, we're going to see more of those kind of problems.
I've got Jennifer, speaking of how interactive we are, she just emailed me. They live in Apopka off Piedmont Wekiva Road, actually, and she says that they've been watching, gotten a lot of lightning, but they said there was almost like a twinge to the lightning color. She almost said it gave off like a green hue, if you will. So getting these pictures in, we're going to upload them, but she wanted me to tell you that, and she lives in Apopka, and that's what she and her husband have been saying.
Yeah, usually that's a sign of hail if it's kind of a greenish sky just because the optics involved, but we're not really getting any hail. It's too warm for that. But this extra colder air, it's 62 up in Jacksonville, and I've covered a lot of weird, wacky stuff, but I've never covered a major hurricane, the fourth strongest in Florida history, coming in south and west with a cold front draped to the north. So everything is going to be squally all night tonight, and that's the bottom line with very heavy amounts of rain.
One for future classwork for future meteorologists. They will use this as a case study. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back for WFTV Tonight, a reset at the top of the hour. We're going to show you all of this video that's been coming in. Live pictures continue.
New track, a new 11 o'clock advisory coming as well.
429, 2 videos right there live, and then Daytona Beach still getting pounded. We'll be right back. You're watching our extended and continuous coverage of Hurricane Ian here on WFTV Channel 9.